better than doubles. It's triples, yes, exactly.
They don't believe that it actually happened. They didn't believe that it worked.
Melee triples is real. It is real. I have been there. I have all these notes about melee triples.
It's definitely real. I have it. You can't have it, but I have it.
Everything seems impossible until the first time someone does it. The video game modding community is a good example of this, pushing the limits of what's possible in our favorite games. But even video games have their limits, and game mods generally respect the boundaries of the game they're created in. However, on February 15th, 2020, a never-before-seen mod was revealed at a Pennsylvania Smash tournament named The Dark Frames, unveiling something no one could have imagined possible.
The stages have room to breathe.
6 players in a 3vs3 battle, all on one Nintendo game console, aptly named Melee Triples. But as suddenly as it showed up, this new game mode would immediately fall into the category of lost media and would never be seen again. In the world of competitive Smash, a common way of playing is what we call doubles, where you pull up with your best friend and fight another team in a 2v2 battle. So, it's no surprise people took notice when rumors of a 6-player game mod were spreading, meaning we could potentially see 3-player teams in the near future. But 4 years later, after its alleged debut in Pittsburgh, not a single trace of 3vs3 Melee can be found on the internet. And now, it's been long enough that some people question the existence of Melee triples in the first place. Let's be real, Melee has a misinformation problem, starting back from the very beginning. Back in April of 2002, Electronic Gaming Magazine, a major publication at the time, thought it'd be funny to post a 100% fictitious article detailing how to unlock Sonic the Hedgehog in Melee. I had to get a copy myself to believe it, but they straight up have fake screenshots and steps on how to unlock a character that doesn't actually exist in Melee. Mind you, this was in a time where household internet wasn't that common, so people just couldn't look things up. This created confusion for years to come. So I don't exactly blame people for not really trusting if 6-player Melee was a real thing. I mean, how exactly do you plug in 6 controllers into a game console that only has 4 spots? And why did it show up to a random Pittsburgh tournament and then literally never again? Also, why don't we know anything about the author of this mod? I love Melee's history, but honestly, we're not very good at preserving it. So I want to make sure the story of 6-player Melee is shared, because if it isn't, it'll become another urban legend, or worse, forever lost to time. Alright, good news and bad news. It's not exactly hard to find all the information online about Melee triples, there just isn't much of it. A random tweet here and there, 1 YouTube playlist, 2 Reddit threads, and most importantly, the Twitter handle of the person who allegedly created this mod. Of course, the first thing I tried was just to message him. However, between the time of me finding his Twitter account and me making this video, Digital Cannon managed to get banned from Twitter. I don't know if this is bad luck or something more suspicious, but this got a lot harder. I don't know if it's just me, but when I go looking for something and it just disappears at the exact time I was looking for it, I want it more. So now I have to figure out what happened. This video will take you through never before seen lore, footage, interviews, and even some new updates about Melee's lost game mode. So I have a new plan. There's this big upcoming tournament in Ohio, which really isn't too far from Pittsburgh, the place that Melee Triples was allegedly played at. If I were to get a list of people who went to that, and compare it to the list of people who will be going to this Ohio tournament, in theory I can cross-reference those 2 lists and get a smaller list of people who might be able to tell me about Melee Triples.
As a Rainforest Cafe meets a Pure One Imports, and I've driven here 5 hours. We're finally in Sandusky, Ohio, to talk to some players about Melee Triples, whether it's real, whether it's not. And yeah, I don't know what to expect, but let's check out Riptide 2023.
Of the thousands of people who are here, 4 of them were gracious enough to share the untold story of Melee Triples. Okay, so tell me everything.
You know Melee doubles? Imagine doubles, but instead of 2, it's 3. That's the basic idea of triples.
So Melee Triples is the brainchild of a mad scientist from Pittsburgh who goes by the tag Digital Cannon. When it comes to modding Melee, Digital Cannon wanted to do something very unique.
Player named Digital Cannon was sitting down one day playing multi-man Melee, right? And noticed there's 6 characters on the screen. You can't do that in any other part of the game. This one game mode in single player has 6 characters. Maybe I could do that for singles somehow.
I think he just kind of thought of the idea one day and became obsessed with it.
Right now. Check this shit out. So we got the Moon controller.
So the first problem you notice you run into is there are 4 controller ports on a GameCube. But you can plug an adapter into a Wii, and you're actually able to have all 6 controllers on. Can we do this? Oh my God, we can. What do we even do with that? You know, it just, once you like unlock this space of like, can we use controllers 5 and 6? To me, it's like no one ever, the first person to think of triples was everyone in the room who heard of having these be human controllable ports. You know, it's like the obvious thing to do with it in my mind.
But it works. So player 1 still works. And then player 5, right?
Once the mod was ready, we were talking about creating a pop-up bracket there to kind of debut it to the world, because no one else had ever seen this. So the premiere of Melee Triples was at Pit Smash Presents the Dark Frames, which was a tournament that we ran in the O'Hara Student Center at the University of Pittsburgh.
We basically were like, we're gonna stream some Melee Triples, and we like announced that, and everyone was like, what does that mean?
I don't know. It's gonna be wild anyway. You're not ready? You have battery. This is fucking history.
Tough Samus. The pop off. I said fire transformation right here.
All right, let's see how this. Oh
okay.
God! Oh
Okay.
God! Wait, no, a triples combo. Oh my God!
Dude!
Holy
That's
shit!
complete object cover.
They honestly don't look that great.
Yeah.
They might just die off the top. Yeah, one person can go out and edge guard, one person stays on stage, and one person covers ledge. Craig, Claude, Stephanie, gorgeous game. The 2 teachers were doing a bunch of nairs. That was convincing.
Oh my God! All angles. Both go out and do that. That's insane. Here we go. Oh my God. Dude, Lot needs to be team fast. Oh my, see the double float right there? Right. They just cover high and low. And yeah, Craig's just taking up whatever is. That's it. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was like a pretty big surprise. They had set it up on the stream while I was like stepped away, and then I was like, oh, they're playing triples on the stream somehow. Well, that's crazy. And I'm like, we're supposed to be running right now. I was like, it's so cool, but I'm also like sometimes we don't get out here till 1. Like it's, but it was a great like exhibition to just see kind of raw, I guess.
It was amazing, honestly. We were all of us in Pittsburgh were so excited to see this revolutionary thing for Melee, like a whole new game mode that was basically made like on accident. It's like an attack on all your senses sometimes if you don't have a plan. So it makes it really hard to play, but like it's because it's so difficult. It's a fun challenge. I don't know. It's a fun thing to try to figure out. Playing it, you realize like very quickly that you should have like, everyone should have like a role, like a game like Valorant where like you have like a character that has like a certain role on the team. I think it was Crike, Polish, and I want to say Jada played 3 Mewtwo's on a team. But me, Luke Wilson, and Gumball, I went into it with a plan and we we crushed them. We crushed the dreams of Mew 3.
This was the Dark Frames bracket was the only time you could have experienced this.
At the time, it really felt like it was going to put us on the map. Not that you should get into Melee for fortune and fame. Like, you might as well buy scratch-off tickets at that point, you know? But it really felt like we really had something.
Basically, what happened in the development of it was just that COVID hit, and I think Digital Cannon got a different job, so it became really hard for him to dedicate time to like sitting in his underwear at his computer trying to figure out like why Sheik crashes the game and like why you can't shield drop on the extra ports and all that other stuff. With coding, like you fix one problem and then another new problem that's worse pops up somewhere else because you fixed that problem. So he just kind of didn't really have the time for it.
Where is Digital Cannon now? Well, like I was saying, he works on cars with Charlie Brown, so Pittsburgh best friends staying together, which is awesome. He's kind of a low-key guy though. He's hard to get in touch with. He's not very public about stuff. I mean, he didn't even like put his name all over this or anything like that. So I think he's just kind of moved on and doing his thing at this point. But you know, who knows? Maybe he'll dust it off and give us a second Christmas one day.
When I first set out to make this video, I hoped I'd be able to share its history, how it worked, and maybe even figure out how it could be played. I talked to so many wonderful people, but ultimately I'd hit a dead end and exhausted all of my leads. But just as I was going to give up and upload what I had, I received a gift at the last possible moment. A response. The person who's been ignoring all of my DMs, avoiding the spotlight, and responsible for creating 6-player Melee had finally responded. Perhaps it was some luck, or maybe one of the people I talked to managed to reach out to him, but Digital Cannon had agreed to a first ever interview about Melee Triple's past, present, and future.
Hello.
Hi Noah, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. My name is Cadence. Thank you so much for jumping on this call.
Let's start easy. So who are you?
Okay, my name is Noah Greenberg. I'm a software engineer, and I made Melee Triples. Mainly went by DC instead of Digital Cannon. But yeah, that's me. Melee, my one friend, Jonathan, he tried to play with me a bunch of times. I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. But then he somehow convinced me to go to one of the Pittsburgh weeklies, Mole, and it was just a blast. Everyone there was so welcoming and friendly. I just had to come back, and then it snowballed from there.
So how did you get into modding Super Smash Bros. Melee?
In the Pittsburgh scene, was and probably still is to this day, really apprehensive towards modding Melee at all. Like, you could not convince most of these people to agree to a neutral start, even without mods. It's like the game is how it is, and that's it. You play the game. But I really wanted to incorporate neutral start. That was just an important thing for me and a couple other people. So I made this thing called Vanilla Tournament Mod, I think is what I called it, which was a silly name to put vanilla in the name. It was literally just like a neutral start mod that you could toggle on the CSS. And that alone was like a big political thing, an accomplishment to get Pittsburgh to even try to use on one setup. Sometime after that, someone said, haha, what if there were 6 players in the game? And I said, haha, wait, actually, what if I did that? And then I did that. And then I thought about it for a bit, like just sitting there, and I was like, I bet if I put the Wii U GameCube adapter into the Wii, I bet there's some way I could feed that to the game and get 6 players actually controllable. Yeah, I remember when I finally got, I think it was they had to play the same character, but I had the inputs being respected for each port 1 through 6 individually, and just picking up each controller and making them move on the screen. I was like, oh my god, it's triples. And I remember taking a video of it. It was like a CRT and a Wii on the floor of my college apartment. Shit all over the floor. Just taking a video of it anyway and sending it to all my friends. Like, look at this. Look, you can have 6 players. Isn't this amazing? They thought it was cool shit. Just because everyone knew Melee in Pittsburgh, people love doubles, so I think everyone knew that triples was going to be a lot of fun.
Creating 6-player Melee cannot have been easy. I had wondered what sorts of challenges were faced.
There was a very noticeable amount of input lag for players 5 and 6, and that was really only solvable by me rewriting the code that I had injected into Nintendo for the Wii to actually feed the data from the USB adapter into Melee. But it was just written as like this something that Nintendo wants. It was an abstraction layer, and I just had to rewrite the whole thing to be like, these are going to be the values from the GameCube controller, put them in this exact location where Melee wants them to be, like one step. And that was just kind of tedious, but got it figured out. It might have been Mole 300, something with 3 involved that people were like, oh, we should do triples as a main event. And it was also crashing a lot there. I felt, if anyone's seen Indie Game the movie where Phil Fish is like freaking out because Fez is crashing in front of the people he's trying to demo it to, it felt like that because I was trying to participate in the bracket, but I would just hear like the Wii, like,
Sonic Pro, this time we don't. The game froze!
Sound of like, just it completely crashing in the background, and then I would turn around and like try to fix it for them because it would hold up bracket.
And of course, the burning question, would Digital Cannon ever release this to the public?
Even if I don't have a fix for having more than 4 unique characters, I would still, at some point, like to release it to the public, just having that restriction on it that you can only pick 4 unique characters at most. But for the last 3 years, I've been almost completely consumed by my job, which is, that's something I chose to do and continue to choose to do. One of the sacrifices is unfortunately triples, that I just don't have the time to work on it. It's entertaining to me that some people think it's not real. I almost want that to continue, just because I think that's funny, that there's some people doing like moon landing denials for triples. I think that's really funny. But it's definitely real. I have it. You can't have it, but I have it.
As our call is ending, Noah surprised me and wanted to make a request to everyone.
I guess I'd like to put out a call for help. If anyone in the Melee modding scene nowadays does know how the code for the model loading works and has a good idea of what the memory allocation for that looks like, let me know, because that's the biggest part of triples that has not been solved. So, back when I was working on it, I talked to Uncle Punch about it, and he was like, I haven't figured that out. So, but maybe, it's been at least 3 years, so maybe someone's figured that out.
There is so much about Melee triples I couldn't fit in one video. In this digital age, it's shocking to me how much media is lost forever. And it kind of stresses me out when the only copy of something could be sitting on someone's hard drive that's gonna die one day. So in an effort to make that a little bit better, anything that felt unique or never before seen or whatever is at the end of this video, so go check that out. I need to thank the entire Pittsburgh scene for helping me make this video, and of course Digital Cannon, who was gracious enough to do an interview despite being a kind of offline kind of guy. If you know Melee's code inside and out, and you think you can help with Melee triples, go ahead and contact them. I'll put some information here. If you like what you saw, come check out my other videos. I like to make stuff that I feel like should exist, but don't exist yet. So that's where our story ends today. Only a handful of people were ever able to play 6-player Melee, and now it's privately held. You won't be playing it anytime soon, or will you? Maybe we'll have another surprise in store. Take care, and see you next time.
So yeah, we are using off-the-shelf Nintendo stuff for the most part. Wii's, adapters, copies of Melee, and it's a memory card code. Like, it wasn't like a mod that you like have a different ISO or something and run it from there. It was like put in the triples memory card code and name entry glitch.
So the way 6 people play it is you plug in like all 4 controllers into the Wii, and then there's 2 USB ports on the back of a Wii that some people use like a USB loader to emulate Melee on Nintendo, but you can't do that if you play triples. You have to plug in a main flash adapter, but you plug it in, and you only plug in the black cord back, but like Rumble won't work with the controller. You plug in the main flash adapter, and then you kind of have to like position it so that it can hang over the Wii, and you plug into the first 2 slots of the main flash adapter to get 6 people able to play. It was really weird like sitting down to play it because Digital Canon had to like explain that there was 2 character select screens. And so you go through 2 character select screens, then you pick the stage, and then you hope it doesn't crash for some reason. And then you can actually play melee triples. So cramped because you have to have 6 people sitting around a TV. Usually has to be a pretty big TV. I had the pleasure of watching someone else play it on a really small CRT. It's like everyone's kind of like, you have to go diagonal, like in like a U shape almost, just to fit around the TV. And I feel like some people like actually just can't see the game at all. Like sometimes they just kind of have to guess.
You'd have to be like very aware of this logistical concern. You can't have CRTs as close to each other. You have to have bigger TVs, but it is a non-trivial problem to solve. Especially, bigger guys like me, you just take up a lot of room by yourself. Laurel can sneak in there, but...
A lot of different rules that you have to follow also, because the mod was not perfect, and certain things that you would do would crash the game. So while being hectic, also you weren't able to pick ice climbers, you weren't able to play Sheik, you weren't able to play on Pokemon Stadium, Fountain of Dreams. I don't think you could use tags, if I'm remembering correctly.
There's team play doubles, obviously, but I feel like you can almost have more constructed like game plans with triples because you have more ingredients to your whole pot kind of deal.
It's the one game mode in Melee where it's like that. Like you should have like one person who's approaching, one person who's like standing still most of the time, just like trying to just sit on platform like down smash with Peach, try to catch whoever's flying or jumping or whatever. And then someone who's like dedicated to edge guarding like the whole time. And that is what I feel like is the optimal way to play triples, like when we've talked about it and when we've tried to play it.
The main meta definitely kind of started flowing like it would out of Melee doubles, where like characters like Peach, where while you're hitting your team's still very good recovery, good hitboxes. Fox can get around the most, but also gets hit a whole lot.
Peach and Sheik could sort of do their thing where they juggle people, and then Fox could up smash them or up air them. Turned out to be extremely true.
We also learned that on the Mayflash adapter ports, there's no like native control, so you can't shield drop on those ports. And that became like part of the meta too. Like, okay, who's not shield dropping? Who's just gonna like stand here, down smash with Peach or something?
When it comes to strategies with melee triples, I feel like even in those moments, people are like, what can we figure out? What can we do with this? Because it's like, with doubles, there's stuff like, you can do like jab infinites and stuff like that with 2 characters and all that. And I think that people were trying to find that kind of stuff.
What was more like noticeable was actually the lack of what you could do rather than like what started developing that you could do. I think that the lack of space certainly makes 3 vs 3 different than singles or doubles. For example, like 6 people on Battlefield, there's not a lot of room. Characters like Peach, your hitboxes are so big that you're just going to be hitting everybody on your team and everybody on their team, and everybody's going to be doing that at the same time. So unless you're playing like Jigglypuff and you're just like all the way up here and doing nothing, like it's just you're getting more SDI practice than you're actually probably playing the game for like the first little bit until some people start dying. Probably if you can set up your entire team in a line just to cover like one half of the stage, like a vertical line, for example on Battlefield, like if you have one person on the ground, one person on top platform, and then like somebody in the middle like Peach floating, that would be in my opinion the best position, because no way the other team's either going to be all in the corner or all separated.
But I would say Peach, Sheik, Fox, probably Falco, and Captain Falcon. And we never played that much with Jigglypuff, but I would imagine Puff doing very well on triples as well. So I would say very similar to doubles ultimately.
Definitely like Sheik, Fox, Peach, maybe Falco. I think his recovery is kind of bad, especially for triples if you're getting hit. So Sheik was really good. But it was hard to play Sheik because sometimes she would crash the game. You could try to play Sheik and risk crashing the game over and over and over again, not get to play. But so Sheik is definitely one of the best characters for triples. But since you can't really always play Sheik, probably pick Peach after that because she does a ton of damage. She can recover for a really long time and like just sit and camp, and just has a lot of different roles you can fill in triples. And also Fox is definitely good just because his damage output is ridiculous. Like you can just nair in place for like 5 minutes and I feel like you could get like 500% between like everybody on the screen. I think characters like Marth like could be like all below those three, but they have, in triples, your weaknesses in doubles are like 10 times as bad. So characters like lower tier characters are just, they're so weird. It's really weird to play a lot of characters.
Unofficial title best triples player. Well, Digital Cannon probably play tennis did it the most. In Pittsburgh, you know, I'll give respect where it's due. I'm sure Connor and Stro probably hacked it out the best. They were the doubles team that was running the show back then. So I would give it to them.
So the best triples player in the world, of people who play triples a lot, player skill, it's gotta be Laurel. Spinda. She's not the kind of person who would be like, it's gotta be Gumball, you know?
We'll see.
She's gonna be like, I cooked him, you know?
I do think I'm really good at melee triples, but I don't think I'm the best. I don't know. I guess I haven't teamed with like other like technically like good players, but I don't know. I think about it and I love labbing triples, so maybe that's why they say that. I feel like the best melee triples player is probably Lod because he figured it out so fast, and whatever team he was on, like on the few melee triples tournaments there were, I think he was on the winning team every time.
I don't know. I still don't know. I only found out I was banned on Twitter because someone messaged me like, hey, I saw you deleted your Twitter, but I wanted to ask you about triples. And I was like, oh, I didn't delete my Twitter. So I went to log in to check like why was my account deleted, and it said I was banned. And I have no idea why, because I hadn't tweeted in like 2 years. So I was like, oh, maybe it's for inactivity. But I appealed it, and they said, no, you should definitely be banned. And then like a month later, I appealed it again, and they gave me the account back. So I have no idea why that happened.
Which the name The Dark Frames comes from an old idea that one of our players, Taki, kind of came up with, where Melee runs at 60 FPS, but the Dark Frames are kind of these secret frames that sort of, it's like where the best Melee's played almost.
Essentially, because top players act faster and they do things better than the rest of us, they get extra frames that they can activate later in the game in order to avoid things that should normally work for their opponent all the time. Like Fox up throw up smash, all of a sudden it's not hitting you the right way. Or Sheik forward tilt forward air, you just live it. You don't die at like 120%. These are the dark frames. And these are what separate the good players from the great players.
And Digital Cannon was a big fan of the dark frames. And so I'm sure during development of Melee Triples, he might be the only person who's actually ever seen the dark frames.
Oh, the dark frame. So the dark frame's very real thing. It's all the frames that happen in between frames. So basically you're just not going to be able to compete if you don't know about dark frames, because all the good players know about dark frames, and that's where they get you. They're doing all the damage in the dark frames. So if you're not taking advantage of them, you're behind the 8 ball already. This guy, WParam, had figured out how to do the name tag glitch, where like how all the memory card mods work, where you load the name entry screen and then it freaks out, and then there's a mod loaded. That his old article from like 2008 was the only documentation on that, and none of the people who like made UCF or any of the stuff like that, or 20xXTE, had written any documentation about that. So I had to figure that all out from scratch. It was like I was in my college dorm room, and I had papers just like taped up everywhere of notes of like random memory addresses of stuff I was trying to figure out. That took like a month, I think, to get that tool working. Figuring out how to load the models for 5 and 6, that took a little bit of time, because obviously Melee only has 4 slots on the character select screen. But what I did was, I think either player 5 or 6 has to push Z or start, I can't remember, and then it like resets the CSS. And this is code that I actually half stole from that neutral start mod that I mentioned earlier. You'd press the button and it would reload the CSS, and it would say at the top, like, this is for player 5 and 6. And then players 1 and 2 were controlled by the controllers in the USB adapter. so they could choose their characters for 5 and 6. But the problem was getting the model loading to actually respect that those models were for 5 and 6, and not like unloading the characters that were selected for the real players 1 and 2, and getting all those things to load in the way that Melee wants to load them, which is as soon as you select the character. Like normally when you put your little hockey puck over a character and hit A, it immediately loads the files from disk. Just getting Melee to not throw those out when I did that CSS reset for 5 and 6 was a bit of a challenge.
My tag is Spinda, and I'm known for being a Pittsburgh, Northeast Ohio player. I've been around for a really long time, for like 9 years. And I've done a lot of different things. I've commentated, I've run tournaments, like charity events. I have made videos for collaborative events with the BTS team. And I've traveled everywhere. I've written about Melee, I've done like art with Melee, I've made shirts, I'm just pretty much a jack of all trades. And me being in the community for so long, that's kind of just like how people know me.
So my name is Hunter. I am a Melee player for about 9 years now. I'm from the Pittsburgh region, where I mainly fill the role of broadcasting tournaments, kind of TOing, not really. I'm just like, the TOs are in front of me and then I'm running the Melee stream and making sure everything looks great and we can have like a good event in Pittsburgh.
Thomas Fahey, tags Fahey, Peach Main, originally from the Pittsburgh scene. I started TOing there shortly after playing. I would say these days I'm more known for traveling around and going to everything, but I do see myself returning to TOing and giving back to the community once I'm done playing.
So I'm Luke Wilson. My tag's just Luke Wilson. But I'm really not anybody. I've never been good. I've never really meant to be good. I started playing Melee basically as an adult after college because it seemed like a good way to make friends. I'm very like social and outgoing. I like to think I'm a good person to be there for new players because I like to encourage them. I like to talk to them. And when I sit down on a setup with them, I'm not just totally beating them up all the time. There have been 2 triples events that I'm aware of. If there were any more, they didn't let me know, but there was a PSP, which had a triples bracket that was all like pre-reg teams. You know, if you showed up to the PSP and you're like, triples is sick, there wasn't a way you could get in there. And there was a mole where we had triples at, aren't just like plugging in and testing it out, less than 100. I'm also bad at estimating numbers.
Mike, who was a Pittsburgh player who unfortunately passed recently, they had a mind for the game that I think a lot of people like miss, especially now. Very expressive and very much like it lent itself to doubles and stuff like that. I feel like that would have applied to triples as well.
Ohio. When he started playing, he was a little bit older than me, a high schooler from the Mount Lebo kids. He used to be friends with Charlie Brown, who he made like all these Mario 64 videos, like the blindfolded cheater caught. Like he was friends with that, like he was part of that little group. I think in Pittsburgh it caught on a little bit more than it would have elsewhere because we love the idea of forcing everyone who's like, there's so many players who just want to play singles now. And we love the idea of Melee triples forcing everyone to play and like play together and just getting everyone involved no matter how new they were. I would love to tell those people that Melee triples is real. It is real. I have been there. I have all these notes about Melee triples. It is real. It's not fake. And they don't know what I'm talking about because they haven't been enlightened. They don't even know that it's possible. And if they were enlightened, they would be so excited about Melee triples.